By organizing this conference on alternative protein sources, the BfR's intention is to bring together experts from different fields to exchange ideas and information and learn from one another. We will be discussing novel protein sources originating from plants, from insects, or from fungi or microorganisms, and lab-cultured meat.
We researchers should explore more the diversity. There are so many possibilities, not only the traditional plant-based, talking about soybeans or peas or lentils, but also, for instance, I will show some products from the Amazon that are very rich in vitamins and minerals. The biggest challenge for us in Latin America is the prices. We don't have enough companies that are transforming the sources in processed food. So nowadays, the biggest challenge is to have more investment in research in order to have more products in the market.
So we are, I think, the #1 country in the world that has pioneered the approval of cultivated meat, and that was in 2020.
Now, what is the actual exposure of the people in Singapore to these products?
I think Joanne probably have newer information from the Singapore Food Agency.
I think it started in some high-end restaurants, and people go there with the intention of trying cultivated meat. Some have tried it, but in general, limited exposure at this point. So at the moment, I think a lot of it, when they produced it, it is produced at probably lab scale.
I particularly focus on the new technology, new food production processes such as cell-based food production and precision fermentation. First, biggest message is that technology does have a potential, and we cannot neglect this potential in the technology. Second message is that equal accessibility. So we cannot just go ahead with the limited number of countries or limited number of experts to go ahead with the new production processes, but then we have to understand what kind of people, particularly in those low and middle income countries, can have an access to the technology. This is a very important message to convey. And then last one is we do have to ensure how to assess the safety of those proteins in the future. And then as soon as we establish the methods for ensuring food safety, they become promising options.
We need to make sure that they come from safe sources and safe processes. And consumers need to understand what they're eating and enjoy them. Looking at alternative processing, alternative sources requires the use of technology. And we need to appreciate what the nutritional impact of that is, not just the safety of the foods, but what is going to be the place of these products in people's diet. Is it going to make our diet better, our nutritional intake more adequate or not? And some of the products on the market may, for example, have a higher content of salt or a higher content of saturated fat, simply because we want to make them more palatable and acceptable to the consumers. That is something we need to consider. So not just the safety, but the nutritional value and the nutritional impact of these products in our overall diets.
I'd like to re-engage the panel on the nutrition impact. If you see that one of these products actually goes towards excess, do you advise the producers to change it? For example, the very nice crickets we had last night were extremely salty. So is there a way to change that?
The trend is, I would say, to be more nutritionally conscious in terms of what we're seeing in submissions than less nutritional conscious.
There are some overlap when we're talking about identified micro and macronutrients for which there is, within dietary guidelines, established levels.
Usually, for example, in case of whole foods, we ask applicants to provide us with the micronutrient profile of the novel food. Then, of course, considering the proposed use and use levels, to do an exposure assessment.
Often in alternative proteins, there are some for which we have a lot of experience, and in some we're in a place where there's rapid evolution of the technology. So we expect that as we move through that, we're going to see changes, and this might result in more and different types of questions. We think this is probably just going to be a part of the process as this industry continues to evolve and learn as it goes. I think some of the greatest challenges right now are going to be for the industry as it relates to scale up of this industry and also some consumer acceptance, what it is that they're seeking and how industry is going to meet those needs while achieving their ultimate goals. Seems like that's the next phase for this industry.
I understand that regulators do have to communicate and engage consumers about safety and regulatory compliance and all kind of requirements, but who should be communicating about more holistic ideas, benefits?
I don't think it's a good idea for government agencies to promote, but I think it's important to correct and provide accurate information to the public as much as possible if there is misinformation out there. Engaging with the public in real time is, I think, critical now more than ever.
The greatest challenges for alternative proteins really is public acceptance, taking into account the social, cultural, as well as religious considerations amongst these various different types of communities and across different parts of the world. And remember, consumer is king. So for example, when you talk about cultivated meat, we have communities, religious communities such as the Muslims. Would they think that this food type is halal enough and therefore fit for consumption? There are also those others who have food allergies. Would they be convinced enough to be accepting of these new food types? If your target consumers are those who are more environmentally conscious, then I think it's important to highlight the benefits of alternative proteins, and how it can actually help to improve climate change and also be environmentally friendly.
My main interest is how to feed the world, the population of the world in a sustainable way. And in that strategy, reducing animal protein and replacing it by plant protein is a very important strategy. The biggest problem in human nutrition is that we do not have enough cropland where we can grow plants. We should feed human beings with grain and ruminants, dairy cows, sheep, goats with grass. And then we do avoid a competition. Macroalgae are very interesting because they don't need land.
Livestock is still an essential part of agricultural systems also in 30 years. Our challenge is actually that we, in the future, will have to diversify the protein sources. It's a matter of availability and costs. Of course, we can say we want to diversify, we want to localize, but then it comes maybe also to regulation to enhance that.
With so much knowledge in all these different agencies, it would be fantastic to have an international framework, minimal standards. And my dream is if Singapore has approved a product, that EFSA says, well done.
The conference organized by BfR, EFSA, FDA, and other partners has been an incredible opportunity to exchange views about the challenges and the opportunities given by the alternative protein sources. We believe the international collaboration is critical to make sure that the science advances and that we have better products for the consumers. This could be a solution for the world global food challenges.